I'm Fox 10 Investigator Justin Lum. Lori Vallow Daybell's first trial in Arizona lasted a couple of weeks. The state called 19 witnesses, while Lori presented no evidence on her own behalf. Ultimately, the so-called Doomsday Mom was found guilty of conspiring in the murder of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. Here is the trial timeline that led to the jury delivering a guilty verdict.
Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence in this case is going to show you that Lori Vallow Daybell conspired with her brother, Alex Cox, to kill her husband, Charles Vallow. When Charles let Lori know he was coming into town, she quickly got the pieces into place. Alex came to her house with a gun. Lori created the way to keep Charles inside the house so that Alex and she could be like Nephi. To kill Charles Vallow to better, at least her life, so she could be with Chad and she could live off that life insurance policy. As we go through this trial, you will see photos of Charles's injury, photos of the crime scene, and hear testimony that will prove that this was not self-defense. As we go through this trial, you'll be provided with phone calls, emails, text messages, and hear testimony that lays out the motive for this murder: money and Chad Daybell. You will see text messages and hear from people who Lori trusted and who were later pushed away, people who really don't want to be part of this trial, but were pulled into it by this defendant and her desire to get rid of Charles to be with Chad. People who heard Lori for months saying Charles was gone, possessed. People who will establish that this murder was premeditated. You will hear text messages from July 9th by Lori to her brother, Alex Cox, that he had to stay near her, that it was all coming to a head, and she would be like Nephi, and so would he. A justified killing, just like the prophet. And later, the text message to Chad where she told him that Charles changed the life insurance policy before they got rid of Ned. A confession by Lori of how religion and money were twisted to justify Charles's murder. At the end of this trial, the state will come to you and ask you to hold the defendant responsible for the death of Charles Vallow and find her guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Thank you.
The evidence will show that Tylee and I returned directly to our residence where we met with police in our driveway. The evidence will show that we were spoken to by the Chandler police officers. And the evidence will show that Tylee and I were told by the Chandler police detectives that Charles had passed away. The evidence will show that we were put into a police van and driven to the Chandler Police Department. The evidence will show that Alex was taken by police in a police car to the Chandler Police Department, and that we were all three separated into interrogation rooms and we were each interviewed.
When you went to speak with Lori Vallow, did you know that the deceased person in the house was her husband?
I did.
Okay. When you went to speak with Lori Vallow, did you ask her whether or not the individual inside her husband lived there?
I did not ask her that.
Can you describe for us Lori Vallow's demeanor as you were interacting with her?
Calm, nonchalant, just kind of a matter of fact, just talking to me as I'm talking to you now.
Did she ever ask you how her brother was doing?
No.
Did she ever ask you if her brother needed medical attention from being hit by a bat?
No.
Did she ever ask you why there were so many police cars around the neighborhood?
No.
Did she ask you why there was a fire truck parked in front of her house?
No.
So other than gathering basic information, did you really talk to her about anything else?
No.
The scene itself, was it chaotic?
No.
Were people running around screaming?
No.
Were people running in and out of the front door?
No.
So were the officers calm?
It was just me and another officer.
Were you calm?
Yes,
Was the other officer calm?
he was.
Were the detectives calm?
They were.
Was the fire department calm?
I didn't interact with them very much. I couldn't answer that.
Your friend the Wiz was calm?
Yes, the other officer, yes.
So when I arrived at the scene, things were pretty calm.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Oh, yes, you were calm.
No, I'm saying when I arrived at the scene itself was calm environment.
It was.
Okay. So if I would have been hysterical, that would have been more out of character than if I was calm when everybody else was being calm. Isn't that correct?
Speculation.
Sustain.
When you were at the medical examiner's office as they were performing the autopsy, did you learn additional evidence that helped support your opinion as to whether or not Mr. Vallow was laying on the ground when he was shot in the abdomen and the bullet exited his left shoulder?
Yes.
What was that additional evidence that you considered when reaching this opinion?
Well, I had asked for specific things for the doctor to include in the examination that would help me with rendering that information. One of them was to measure the location of the bullet strikes on the body, both the entry and the exits. And then I also asked for the use of trajectory rods, if it was available, to help demonstrate the angles of the shots so that I could visibly see everything. They have the unique experience of being able to see the actual damage to the organs as it's passing through. It's not all super clear for me for that part, so the trajectory rods help out a lot.
Having observed the location of the injuries, that measurement, the trajectory rods, did that further support or go against your opinion that Charles Vallow was laying on the ground when he was shot in the abdomen?
It further supported it.
In your opinion, then, can you list all the factors that you rely upon to determine that or to reach your opinion that Charles Vallow was laying on the floor when he was shot in the abdomen and the shot exited his left shoulder?
The consistencies of a lot of the evidence that I had personally seen. The trajectory rods helped establish that alone, where it shows the entry into the lower left abdomen and then the exit out through the left shoulder blade area. The divot in the floor that was located underneath the body.
So when you're taking a gun class, is it common for them to say, is it common that they tell you to shoot center mass? Is that a common term?
That is what we train as police officers, is to shoot center mass. It has the highest probability of guaranteeing a hit on the adversary that you're trying to shoot.
Right. So if you were being attacked, you should point at center mass. Is that correct?
That is what's trained, and because stress can obviously create issues, but yes.
Is it a common term to say to center mass?
No,
In training?
that is something that I've heard, but I wouldn't classify it as common.
Would you teach that in your class?
It depends on what class is and what we're actually doing. If it's standard officers, no, I don't tell them to always shoot to center mass, no.
Can you tell us, you said that you understood he was going to go see his son. What was his demeanor about with regards to JJ and seeing his son?
Like a kid on Christmas morning. He was very excited to see JJ.
You had talked about his demeanor when he would talk about his wife. On that evening or ever, did you ever hear him swear or use derogatory names or anything like that towards Lori Vallow?
I was surprised with the details that he was describing to me, how kindly he still spoke about Lori, and his hope was that she would be a great mom for JJ.
Did that stand out to you?
A lot.
Why?
Most men that you date are not nearly so kind about their ex and describe them in more derogatory ways and don't speak so kindly. And I remember just thinking how odd, in a good way, it was that he was not speaking in a derogatory way about Lori.
So that made an impression on you.
It did.
So are you trying to tell me and this jury that you went on one date with my husband and he told you all the details of our lives?
I'm telling you the truth, and that's what I know.
So you spent your whole date getting to know each other, talking about me?
Don't flatter yourself. No, we did not spend the whole time talking about you.
You knew a lot about me, right?
I knew what I've testified to.
What else did you talk about on your date?
Lots of things.
Like what, for instance?
Life, kids, the church, lots of things.
Okay. Did he tell you anything about our other 4 children?
Yes,
So you knew that we did have 5 children as well?
I did.
Okay. Did he talk to you about my daughter, Tylee?
He did.
Did he talk about his relationship with her?
I don't recall that.
Did he talk about the contention in his relationship with my daughter, Tylee?
I don't recall that.
I'm sure you don't.
And I'm going to object to comments by the defendant made after questions testifying. Do you learn at some point that Charles has been killed?
Yes. I was talking with Eric saying something doesn't feel right. I haven't heard from Charles, and usually he would text me or send me a message or something. And then Eric asked me, he goes, well, what's his last name? And I said, Vallow. And he was on his computer and he just Googled Charles Vallow. And he said it popped up that he's been killed by his brother-in-law.
So you learn this. What is going through your mind now?
Just everything, chaos. I had a knot in my stomach. Just probably one of the worst feelings I've ever felt in my life.
So, Mr. Cox, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
Repeat that again?
Okay. Did you see with your eyes or hear with your ears or personally witness me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
No.
Thank you. No more questions.
How did you learn that your brother Charles was dead?
It was on July the 12th. I was at a nail salon in Lake Charles, my granddaughter and I, and I got a call from his oldest son, Cole, and he said, hey, what is going on? I just got a text from Lori, and she said, Dad's dead. And I said, wait, what did you just say? And he told me again, and I said, something's wrong with that. That can't be true. And I said, have you tried to call her? And Cole's like, yeah, she won't. I'm trying calling. She's not answering. He was freaking out, and I was like, okay, Cole, just give me a minute. Let me think about this. Let me see, and I'll call you back. I promise, as soon as I can figure this out. So I called my husband to tell him, and he said, okay, well, I told him that what Cole said, and he said, hey, let me call you back in a minute. And so I was still at the nail salon trying to get out of there, and he called and he said, he's dead. I Googled him, and he's dead. Alex killed him yesterday. And I mean, that was just like, it was horrible. my siblings and let them know. Thank you. And everybody was freaked out. I didn't know what to do. But I did call Cole back and let him know.
Ms. Lecoq, where were you on July 11th, 2019?
At home in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Were you aware at all of the relationship between Charles and Tylee?
It was, let's say, it was a bit contemptuous. It seemed like there was always a lot of drama going on, and so that's all I knew. He didn't say too much about it, and I didn't pry.
But you knew that there was some kind of contention going on with those two for
I can't
a while.
hear you.
I'm sorry. You did know that there was some kind of contention going on with those two for a while.
Yes.
Okay. And you weren't really aware of the events that happened that morning, were you?
The morning of his murder?
Of July 11th?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Because you didn't tell me.
Ms. Woodcock, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with Alex Cox to kill my husband, Charles Vallow?
No, but I saw a ton of evidence that did.
Thank you. No further questions.
So in this case, were both gunshot wounds front to back?
They were.
Were both gunshot wounds right to left?
Yes.
The gunshot wound to Charles's chest was slightly downward,
Correct.
and the gunshot wound to Charles's abdomen was upward.
Yes.
Doctor, given the trajectory that you observed, that from the gunshot wound to Charles's abdomen that exited his left shoulder, and the fact that the gunshot wound was shored, would that be consistent with the shooter standing somewhere near Mr. Vallow's feet and firing at Charles Vallow as he was laying on the floor?
Yes, that's certainly possible.
And did she tell you that she didn't even like Charles
Yes.
and that she didn't want to deal with him
Yes.
and that he traveled to just kind of get away?
Correct.
When you were talking with Lori Vallow, did she tell you that Charles had filed something against her saying she was crazy and asking to limit her supervised visitation?
That's correct.
And then he filed something against me and said, I'm only going to get supervised visits because I'm crazy and blah, 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 you know, the story. And so I just didn't talk to him for like 30 days and let him take care of him and let him see what I've been doing.
So she, I know it got cut off sort of in the end there, she told you that after he filed this paperwork saying she was only going to get supervised visits, that she just didn't talk to him for 30 days.
Correct.
What was Lori's demeanor in the car with her brother and you and Moffett?
She was unaffected, not emotional. The best description I can give is that she chattered the whole way, basically back to the house. Not upset, almost not happy, but just really unaffected by everything that was going on. It was kind of striking.
Is there any acknowledgement about what had happened?
No.
Basically just talking like it was any other day?
That's a good description, yes.
And you talked about my demeanor, right? Being ordinary. Is that what you said?
Being ordinary?
You said ordinary, non-emotional, nonchalant.
Correct.
What's your definition of nonchalant?
Pretty almost detached, just calm, doesn't really matter, kind of not extraordinary.
Do you have a degree in psychology?
I do not.
Do you know what a person should act like if they're in a stressful situation?
So there isn't one way to act. There's just behavior that is striking.
Striking behavior.
Correct.
So if you're looking at a timestamp at 7:54 and you know the 911 call is at 8:36, are you already starting to wonder what's going on here?
Yes, this was one of the concerns that led us to pursue this avenue of investigation.
And you're aware that Lori Vallow had told Detective Inclan that she had left right after Charles was shot.
That is what I was told.
So if she left right after he was shot, she somehow is already at Burger King more than 40 minutes after the shooting before the 911 call.
Correct.
And then on the next day, there was another date scheduled with a Jennifer Gilbert at 12 o'clock.
That sounds correct.
And then the next day, there was another date scheduled with a Juliet at 10 a.m.
And obviously trying to smear the victim.
All right, the objection sustained.
Detective, did you find searches for these dates for my husband back to...
If we can do a sidebar.
Sustained.
This is a different question,
No,
Your Honor.
whether he went on dates or had dates scheduled is not relevant to this case. Ask another question. You can ask about the date of the person that testified the night before because that person was in here and had some relevant information. But other than that, any of these other questions are not relevant.
Now, in this message, when you were going through these records, did you recognize or learn who Nephi was?
So in going through this particular message, I knew that Nephi was a figure in the Book of Mormon related to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but I didn't understand the significance. So I then did some research to find out who Nephi was.
You were present in court when Adam testified, correct?
Yes,
And did his testimony about Nephi being told by the Holy Spirit to kill Laban and that this was a justified killing match with what you had learned when you researched it?
yes, it did.
Did Lori then tell him, nope, he can change it anytime he wants. He's the agent and anyone can change the beneficiary anytime with their own signature. I'm thinking it must be Kay.
Correct.
So she understood, at least to Chad, that Charles had that right.
Yes.
Does Chad then say, it will be interesting if he if it got changed after he had 2 bullets in his chest?
Correct.
And she goes on to respond, I don't think it could have. You can't change it after the death date. They would review that.
Correct.
And then she goes on to say again, I'm thinking Kay as well. Or he says, I'm thinking Kay as well. She probably freaking out that you got those computers. I'm going to shower and give you a blessing. I'm eager to get home so we can talk. It will be okay, my love. You are wonderful.
Correct.
And then she says, miss you so much. And he responds, miss you the most.
Yes.
Yeah, 4 different prophets in the Book of Mormon that are Nephi. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay. So isn't it true that you really have no idea what I was referring to when I referenced Nephi in my text message?
I can only go off of what I see. I can't tell you what you're thinking or what you're trying to relay there, but based on my knowledge and based on talking to people about who is Nephi, that is a story that came up consistently.
You relayed to the jury that it was in order to kill. You relayed to the jury.
I said that the story was the same story and similar to Adam told.
Okay, and you said it earlier that was an order to kill, that I referenced Nephi. I will be like Nephi and you will be like Nephi. To the jury here today.
Ask a question. That's a statement, not a question.
Your Honor, I'd like to address a Rule 20 motion first.
Go ahead.
Okay. The state has failed to show substantial evidence for count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree premeditated murder. The state has provided no evidence that I agreed with another person that any one of us would engage in certain conduct that I intended to promote or assist in this premeditated murder. Crime premeditated murder requires the state to establish a person caused the death of another with premeditation. The lack of evidence to show any evidence of a conspiracy to commit murder, there was no plan to murder Charles. No evidence has showed that, in fact, evidence suggested self-defense on the part of Alex. So I would like to put that on the record.
All right. State want to put a response on the record?
Yes, Your Honor. Looking at the evidence in the light most favorable to the state, there's sufficient evidence based upon everything from the iCloud messages from between Alex, the defendant, and others leading up to July 11th of 2019, that Alex Cox was invited over by this defendant, knowing that they were going to be having an intervention and knowing when Charles would be there and bringing a handgun over with him. The timelines on July 11th of the killing of Charles Vallow and the fact that the number of shots and the physical evidence at the scene, the statements by the defendant to Detective N. Clan that she took Charles Vallow's phone and would not give it back to him, the motive for money, and especially the defendant's motive for having an affair with Chad Daybell, all of those looking at together in the light most favorable to the state, the defendant or the jury could find the defendant guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder.
Last word. Do you want to add anything?
No, Your Honor.
All right. The standard is whether or not a reasonable juror could, whether or not there's substantial evidence for a reasonable juror to find the defendant guilty. The court does find that there is substantial evidence that a reasonable juror could find the defendant guilty. The court will further add that the jurors are the ones who judge the credibility of the witnesses, and it's ordered denying the Rule 20 motion. Are you going to present evidence tomorrow, either through witnesses or through your own testimony?
No, Your Honor, the defense will rest.
All right, we're on the record on CR 2021-001704, State of Arizona versus Lori Daybell. The state is present, the defense is present, the jury is not present. This is the time set to discuss the final jury instructions. Let me confirm with the defendant that, is it still your intention to not put on any evidence?
Right now, Your Honor, yes. As of this morning, I mean.
Well, do you anticipate that changing?
No.
All right. Because that does affect how these instructions will be read to the jury. So for now, we're assuming you're not putting on any evidence.
Meeting in November, hooking up in hotels, and discussing their love for each other. When we are talking about a motive and a person who wants money and who has not worked for 13 years, who has had her husband pay for her homes, her phones, her cars, allowing her to go to the temple and work out and go to lunch and restaurants, this is a big change in life if she loses all of this. But if she gets $1 million, it's not so big of a difference, along with that Social Security she'll be getting. And then obviously we know that once Charles was out of the way, Lori and Chad were able to get married.
The state put forth a bunch of evidence in this trial in an effort to make you dislike me. to try to attack my character so that you would just say guilty no matter what evidence they showed you. But only you get to decide. The state put up witnesses that had zero knowledge of a conspiracy. The state did not show you evidence of an agreement to commit murder. They showed you evidence of a family tragedy, and then they showed you the sad effects of a family torn apart because of that tragedy.
We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action, upon our oaths, do find the defendant, Lori Daybell, as to the crime of count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder occurring on or about July 11, 2019, guilty. Signed, foreperson. Is this your true verdict? So say you one and all.
Yes. On the court's own motion, I'll go ahead and ask the clerk to poll the jury.
Juror number 1, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 2, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 6, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 7, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 8, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 9, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 10, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 11, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 12, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 13, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 15, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 16, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Thank you.
Vallow Daybell's next murder conspiracy trial is scheduled to start on June 2nd. Her ex-nephew-in-law, Brandon Boudreaux, was shot at as he was driving home in October 2019, the bullet missing him by inches. Prosecutors will aim to show that once again, Lori Vallow Daybell conspired with her late brother Alex Cox in this attempted murder. For all of our coverage on this Vallow Daybell saga, scan the QR code on your screen and subscribe to our YouTube channel.